So thank you all very much for taking the time to join us today on CiiTECH's management presentation. By way of brief introduction, my name is Tristan Gervais. I'm head of the cannabis investment banking team here at Crystal Capital. We've done nearly $500 million of corporate finance in the cannabis space over the last 4 years. Previously headed up the cannabis team at Canaccord Genuity in Europe that I founded. So I love this sector. We're really excited to be working with CiiTECH, which is the business we've chosen out of the hundreds of CBD brands in Europe. The business we've chosen to partner with, as we think it's the strongest consumer cannabinoid branded healthcare business in the market. What originally attracted us to the business was Clifton and Steve's wisdom and experience, track record in life, and the fact that they'd really achieved a lot in CiiTECH with very little. 7 million of revenues since inception on 150 grand invested is exceptional. We thought the brand was very high-end pharmaceutical quality, which is important in CBD. Very important. There's a lot of bad CBD out there. The Centre for Medical Cannabis has recently said the UK has become the second largest consumer cannabinoid market after the US. It's growing very fast. There's been 3 listed companies, cannabis companies now that have listed in the UK: MGC Pharma, Canaboo, and Cellular Goods. They've all had a strong run. There's a lot of demand in the public markets for cannabis. This is a very exciting hyper-growth sector. And so the deal here is a pre-RTO, which is a reverse takeover, or IPO, initial public offering, convertible loan note. We're raising 2 million. We've already got 2.3 in the book after a week of marketing. Such has been the demand for CiiTECH, and the market's been very impressed with the management team. It's an instrument that converts with a 20% discount to that reverse takeover or IPO, and it pays a 10% coupon. We're in very advanced discussions with a listed investment vehicle on the London Stock Exchange to announce a reverse takeover, and that announcement should come out within the next week, thereby giving CiiTECH a listing on the UK market, hopefully during July, ahead of the rush of other cannabis companies that wish to list later this year in Q4. So I will now, without further ado, pass it over to Clifton and Steve. Thank you again for attending.
Tristan. Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you all for giving up half an hour of your time. I will jump straight in and give a quick rundown of the highlights. Some of these covered by Tristan already, but let's go with it. Fundamentally, CiiTECH, as we like to say, is a revenue-generating FMCG business. Simple as that. We've banked over £7 million. We've done that with only £150,000 of investment, and that was way back in 2019, which pretty much funded our inventory during that first growth phase. Since then, we've maintained a lean, agile approach to every territory and every channel that we operate in, whether that be in terms of brand portfolio, pricing strategy, or sales channels. We are asset light, that's our model. We're capital efficient. We're always looking for the right, strong local partners for supply, for regulatory concerns, and obviously distribution. Our flagship brand, Provocam, which I hope all of you know, is unashamedly premium, as in it's not cheap. But because we're agile and we have a brand portfolio, we have a number of these brands that can be deployed with varying feature profiles and price profiles. As I said, we've generated good revenues. We believe that we are one of the top 5 UK brands. We've got an experienced, disciplined, and committed leadership team with no ego. And what we do have also, sitting here in Israel, is a fantastic access to pipeline of innovation, which we believe is going to broaden consumer demand as the markets expand and evolve. In short, we've proven that we can build believable brands that inspire trust in the consumer. And now with this finance, we're going to supercharge our growth. And here is the core of that team. With me is Steve Grauber, our CFO. Steve joined the company about 2 years ago with a simple remit: get the company ready, ship shape for a day like this, where we can take the company to the next level. Steve, if you're there, do you want to jump in, say hi, give a bit of background on who you are?
Sure. Hi, I'm Steve. I moved to Tel Aviv 2 years ago from Washington, D.C. I have two kids, one in D.C. and one at uni in Edinburgh. Most of my work has been in and around emerging industries and regulated industries where government is really playing the critical role. I've worked as a CFO, investor, and consultant on a global basis on the ground by now in over 50 countries. Right before moving to Israel, I was a CFO and venture partner at 1776, which is the leading incubator focused on regulated industries. Among my CFO roles and C-level roles was at Institutional Shareholder Services, which is the leading corporate governance and ESG firm. I was also a partner at Calvert Ventures, which we were the leaders, pioneers really, in what's now known as impact investing. And in my early years, I worked on cross-border expansion at Ernst & Young, and my clients included major corporation governments and organizations such as the World Bank. And I'm also a holder of what's called the Chartered Financial Analyst Award, which is basically what all the city analysts have these days. And I met Clifton 3-4 years ago when I was visiting the incubator he was working at. We just sort of hit it off and realized we could go build a business together.
Cheers, Steve. As for me, I'm Clifton. I was born in London, married with 4 children. They were all born here in Israel, where I moved in 2005. Before we get going, let me give you a quick anecdote. I'm going to take you back in time, back to the summer of 1986, when Clifton was a fresh-faced 13-year-old, and the privatisation of British Gas, and the months-long "If You See Sid, Tell Him" campaign. I'm sure some of you might remember that. That campaign had me in absolute raptures. I was hooked. In went my pocket money and more. And suddenly, as a 13-year-old, I was a shareholder in a public company. Completely hooked, not so much on the trading. British Airways, Dixon's and Sock Shop and a bunch of other penny stocks taught me some really tough lessons. But I was hooked on the idea of leading my own company into the London stock market. In the 25 years since, I've built a range of experience and refined my skills through a number of business and entrepreneurial endeavors and senior management positions. In the UK, I built and sold PC networks, and I worked with British Telecom when they rolled out broadband internet back in the late 90s. Here in Israel, I've worked with a number of leading fintech startups and marketing agencies, McCann Erickson being the biggest. I spent some time there building global campaigns for El Al, for SodaStream, Amdocs, and some others. 6 years ago, things got very exciting when, with a couple of friends, I co-founded CiiTECH here in Israel. CiiTECH is a cannabis innovation event and kind of a supportive ecosystem around that. That was a real kind of 2-year whirlwind of fun, building the industry, myth busting, government lobbying, and all that kind of fun stuff. Then 4 years ago, through a series of what I now call fortunate events, I took a detour from that THC highway to build my own cannabis healthcare business, one that's got the credibility of THC, but the revenue potential of CBD. So what is CiiTECH? Well, at the heart of it all, our simple vision is to be the most trusted for cannabis healthcare. You'll hear me use the word trust quite a bit today. It's become a bit of an obsession for me because I think, if you're playing the long game, and we are, then whether it's healthcare or socks or shoes, it's trust that you're aiming for in the consumer market. By the time we do hit market with our RTO IPO, we should have completed some of the final stages of our transformation from a simple CBD company to a full-fledged cannabis healthcare company, complete with THC, clinical studies, patents, patients, and prescriptions. Here's the rest of our team. Together, we launched this business on a bootstrap, and that's where we've been ever since. We've made a lot of money. We've reinvested the profits and more back into research, into people, and some truly exciting projects, which we're going to dig into as we move forward. So aside from the £150,000 investment, everything we've built has been built on a budget. Learning curves aside, what this team here has built and managed to achieve has been absolutely remarkable. But now with this fundraise, we're going to supercharge that growth. We'll have marketing budget, we'll have R&D budget, and we can really begin to drive our research, uncover more and more innovative cannabis healthcare solutions. From the beginning, from way back in the beginning now, 4 years ago, I recognized the need to differentiate from the rest by not just creating pretty brand mock-ups to go out to market with, or signing big name celebrities. But instead, we wanted to build something with substance under the hood. And over the years, that substance has manifested as clinical research projects, media scientific partnerships, an education platform that we built last year for pharmacists, and some really smart sponsorship deals, like we are the shirt sponsor for the Israel national rugby team. But all the while, everything we do always is with this focus on this kind of three-way halo effect of building credibility in the company, building value in the brands, and then, of course, trust in the products. And this is our latest iteration of Provican. This is our premium gold line, which is designed for our novel foods compliant range. So 2017 is when I founded CiiTECH. Really founded to be a CBD company to fill a gap, or more accurately, actually to fill a gap in time between back then and now, when medical cannabis is now commercially available. In those 4 years, we've serviced tens of thousands of consumers from across the UK and across a demographic scale, giving us really unprecedented customer data. We've built a pipeline of wellness and medical brands. We've got a CRM that's busting and bursting with business opportunity. We funded 2 research projects. One of them is now resulting in a really exciting joint venture with the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. Bottom line, we know how to make money, we've done it, and now we're ready for the next stage of our growth. And part of that growth is the activation and boosting of some of our key brands alongside Provican. 2 of them here. There's Hug, which is created to be a self-care line, mostly cosmetics, not only. And Impact is our sports brand that we launched in partnership with James Haskell and Ben Franks. And actually, it was through that rugby track that we became shirt sponsors of the Israel national team. Actually, in that picture there, you'll see Gal Aviram, who's the current team captain, who was in Dubai 2 months ago now for what became a historic peace match between Israel and Dubai. There's a number of product development areas that we're active in. This one is probably one of the most exciting. It's timely, it's relevant. Everybody wants to play their part in the treatment and recovery from this pandemic. What we found last year, we discovered a company that we know very well, Ibna, were involved in a successful preclinical study here in Israel that focused on the effectiveness of a specific terpene formula for treating a specific type of inflammation that arises in serious cases of COVID-19. Developed in Israel, it's got a growing body of evidence behind it. We're rolling out this NT-VRL product under the Provican brand. But terpenes are not just for COVID. Terpenes are the smelly chemicals in cannabis that are present in every plant and been used in perfumes and cleaning products for many years. Terpenes have been proven to have numerous health benefits. And this product specifically is exciting for another reason, that it'll be the first Provican product with 0 THC and 0 CBD, which means that we can market it as a non-cannabis product effectively as freely as if it was aromatherapy, which arguably in many ways it is. So if it's not clear by now, it's going to be in a second. The CiiTECH story is twofold. It's a story of Israel and the UK. Israel, synonymous with cannabis research, medical devices, and clinical study. And the UK is globally perceived as global leaders in healthcare and pharmaceutical regulation. I think nowhere does this brand story come into focus more than our joint venture with the Hebrew University. We call it CiiTECH Labs, and this joint venture holds the license to research and patent develop what we believe has the potential for breakthrough technology. We began a study nearly 4 years ago now with Dr. Yossi Tam, and it was looking at CBD and CBG for the potential to treat fatty liver disease, which then opened up doors to obesity and diabetes and other metabolic diseases. And it's a really exciting formula that, between all of us involved in it, we really believe that as a business unit, it has the potential to stand alone, raise its own capital to expedite a pharmaceutical pathway. But in true CiiTECH spirit, it's not just pharmaceutical we look at. That pharma pathway is also complemented with a short-term, medium-term dietary supplement route to market. What we've done is by adding active ingredients such as apple cider vinegar, that's well known for weight management, we've created CannaSlim, which is a non-psychoactive cannabis diet pill. And speaking of psychoactivity, our path to medical cannabis, which I mentioned at the beginning, is mostly about timing. We've built our brand equity and our market share for this moment. I think we can all agree that medical cannabis consumers now are educated to the point that they believe they're educated, to the point to expect a level of quality in their medical cannabis that obviously most suppliers are unable to fulfill. This, I guess, is in part due to this modern day anomaly where cannabis patients are also cannabis connoisseurs. In short, the market is trying to move on, but this large customer segment is not. But in the last few years, the CBD market has moved on. CBD brands and companies like us, like CiiTECH, we've been out busy building market share. We've got captive audiences and good brand recognition. We've got the consumer brand pathway that the cultivators and producers need. So our strategy for this is quite simple. We're applying our CBD model. We're finding good partners in the supply chain, in this case, the THC supply chain, who can process, pack and ship their product under our brand. And this is really what we've been waiting for from CiiTECH's inception, for that moment where cultivators understand that even if they've signed fancy distribution agreements, that's no guarantee that their brand will gain consumer traction. And that's where Provocan comes in, to kind of fill that gap or play that part of taking raw material into the consumer experience. So it's this asset-light THC model that's enabling us to focus less on the regulatory hurdles and more on the growth through smart marketing. Here's our marketing overview. We execute this top-down, as with any modern FMCG company. The holy grail is to optimize marketing spend to balance and grow brand awareness in line with points of sale. No two markets are the same, certainly not in the cannabis industry. They could not be more different. And our agile strategies enabled us to not get stuck with a single strain or a formula or even a tactical decision on each market. A key tool of our business has become this knowledge that our brands can withstand change. Our pricing strategies, they vary according to brands and territory, but where there is equivalence across markets or sectors, then we do standardize our price points. Else, when a consumer comes into the funnel, we price first for acquisition and then for loyalty. Every territory that we turn to, we're always looking for the social value of an opportunity. In South Africa, for example, we're working with local communities to promote health and hope through our sports institutes at schools and local sports clubs. So, I mean, really, with all the credibility and the history that we've accumulated over the years, obviously so have these endless business opportunities. What we've done is we've narrowed them down into, all of these exciting opportunities, we've narrowed them down into 4 key territories where we're most confident that we can claim a strong foothold. That's the UK, that's Israel, Brazil, and South Africa. So maybe we'll take a quick dive into each of them. Start with the UK, which is our home country. It's our HQ, and as far as consumers are concerned, it's our Centre for Quality Assurance. It's where we launched, where we built our first brands. We're pretty well rooted and entrenched in the country. We're well known. And our growth strategy here is mostly just about budget, to raise awareness and bring eyeballs to the brand. The power of our brands that we built, the brand equity that we built, has given us that confidence that we can continue to grow our CBD market share, whilst also making strong inroads into the medical cannabis space as that evolves. The novel food story, the regulation story in the UK is fantastic, and it's a timely opportunity to leverage the best of British regulatory compliance as the rest of the world, Israel included, and America, is still grappling and working out how to free up and open up their cannabis economies. Our decentralized regulatory strategy puts that emphasis back up the supply chain for them to secure compliance, meaning that our British compliant products are good to go and green lighted in almost any other territory in the world. Jumping over to Israel, until recently, Israel's been our home for management, for product development and research. This year, things are going to change. Long prohibited, the CBD market is about to open up. There's a bill that's going through government now. We expect that will open up by Q3 this year. And we've got an agreement in place with a local distributor for the exclusive import and distribution of our food supplement products. We've also got an agreement in place with a publicly traded Israeli cannabis company to begin developing our THC range of Provocan products. And similar to the UK, we believe that our brand equity, we're very well known here, combined with a bit of marketing budget, will expedite our claim for a decent share of the markets, both markets, CBD and THC. Brazil is probably the jewel in our biz dev crown. We spent most of last year with one of our partners over there in a pilot program under a compassionate use law, where we fulfilled over 1,000 prescriptions during the course of the year. Each of those prescriptions was doctor prescribed. Anvisa, which is the medical authority in Brazil, they have to approve each individual prescription, and then we effectively drop shipped from our logistics center in Slovenia. This year, we're upscaling that, and we signed with a different distributor, upwards of £300 million. It's a 7-year deal, actually it's a 3-way deal to import, to register, and to market our medical cannabis products. All of these will require this sanitary authorization from Anvisa, meaning that doctors can prescribe and pharmacies can dispense. And to complement that, the all-important other side of the equation is the supply. And we've signed an exclusive supply agreement with a contract manufacturer in Macedonia to produce a range of products that are Zone 4B stability tested. And that's the testing protocol that Anvisa requires for Brazil. It's mostly about humidity testing under stability and safety. So that's very nicely in place. Across to South Africa, this is a fantastic opportunity for us to be an early mover. It's a fast developing but still underserviced CBD market. We're using Impact CBD as our flagship brand, followed by Hug, where we've signed an exclusive agreement with an MLM company. South Africa is relatively small. It's English speaking, which makes it perfect for testing new brands and testing new products. It's also a market or a culture, society that embraces food supplements over medicines. And actually, most people go to their health food shop before visiting their doctor, making it really an ideal market for cannabis healthcare products. Super exciting is we're about to launch our first CiiTECH Sports Institute at the famous Pirates Rugby Club in Johannesburg with our local partner. We are the headline sponsor for this sports academy or institute, enabling us to not only build brand awareness through this and drive direct sales, but also to conduct really cool and valuable research studies on all their members, which is amateur and professional rugby players. This will be the first of 3 additional high-impact sports centres that we plan to open with our partner by the end of this year. Strategically, and at the highest level, we're all about building the story of trust. And much of that trust happens through our passion to invest in and uncover and share new cannabis knowledge and innovation. We lean heavily on local partners for regulation, for product modifications for local needs, and of course, to open up channels of distribution. 4 years ago, we set out to build market share at any cost, or with hindsight, more accurately, at any cost. But to build that market share so that we can be ready for now to level up to THC and medical cannabis. And those days truly are now. We've got the battle scars, many of them, to prove that we've got experience and we know how to deal with the conception, the development, localization, and the movements and the regulation of cannabis products. These scars and insights that we've built up position us really well to have elegant solutions, I think, for any challenge we might face. Before I hand over to Steve, I'll give you one of my final quick highlights or insights. When we began CiiTECH, it was on the basis that I believe that CBD will be the growth engine for the entire cannabis industry. And I think that still stands true. Certainly, I believe that it's going to be our cash cow for long into the future. But as we open up the medical sector, I do believe that's going to quickly begin to contribute to our strong growth. So really, just to summarize, from humble beginnings, with almost no funding, we've achieved a lot. We've become one of the leading UK players, and we built a platform that's primed to become the #1 British cannabis healthcare business. So I think now I'll pause here, and Steve, if you're ready, I'll hand over to you, and you can go for a deeper dive.
Sure. So normally at this part of the presentation, we would dig deeply into our financials and our projections. However, given the rules of the financial authorities in London, because we're soon to doing an RTO public. That's the path. We're not able to provide financial forecasts. So what we did here, we wanted to show sort of notionally where our revenue would be coming from by our key markets. And as you can see on the chart, that we anticipate that in the near term, the UK will continue to be our dominant market. And then we're projecting increasing diversification globally. We see Israel, Brazil, and South Africa, per Clifton's points before, kicking in this year, accelerating next year. And we anticipate that Europe, US, and Asia will become the dominant markets by 2024. And that will experience growth in all our target markets. We also, we have our target markets, and then there's just things we're getting over the transom with lots of offers and lots of other opportunities. So we see lots of growth in all our markets and diversification. Next slide, Clifton. So this is our last slide of the presentation, and it summarizes what the investment terms are and the use of proceeds. As Kristen mentioned at the beginning, our capital strategy is to raise a total of 7 million with an RTO. Initially, we're raising a £2 million note, which is what we're talking about in this call. That again is a 20% discount, which means you'll get a 20% discount to what the market listing price is, and there's a 10% coupon, which means you'll be collecting interest on that until there's the offering, and that interest will be converted into additional shares. The use of these funds will be for marketing, IPO costs, and building our infrastructure for growth. And then with the £5 million raise at the RTO, we'll again use that for sales and marketing, but also to support some R&D work, which we talked about before, and product development. And then we'll need some money for inventory, which we'll get an inventory line.
Well, look, thank you all very much for attending. Great turnout.